welcome home. It's Irish Family History with curious news and notes, celebrating our 4th year of this podcast at the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday and there's always room for one more. One of 6 broadcast series from the head school at irishroots.com. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, publisher of rare Irish books and information on every county in Ireland since 1978. Be sure to read our blog, complete with links to click on from this podcast, and search our master index and books for free. Molly, wet the tea, Katie, bar the door, Sweeney, clear that floor, and bring out the Irish dancers. It's time we get this show on the road. Well, it's show number 164 of the Irish Family History Podcast, and boy, it's good to be back home. I'm telling you, those road trips are fun, but there's nothing like getting back home into your own territory. We just spent a great weekend at the Dublin Irish Festival. It's our 12th year there, you might know, and those people really do it upright, and they sure treat us good. They've had us come out there and be consultants and exhibitors for Irish genealogy and Irish family history for 12 years now, so we really do appreciate that, and it's a lot of fun to see all of our old folks out there each year and some new folks coming in. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about that festival and how we enjoy it and how it worked out this year. So I'll just share that with you while I'm catching up on all my old book work in just a few minutes. Oh boy, well, like I was saying, we load up the van each year, the old mobile unit, and we take off, and you know, you think we could get by with just a couple of computers and our good looks, but it doesn't quite work out that way. What do we put in that van? Boy, I start out each year thinking it's going to be simple and easy, and we're just going to throw a few things and go, and by the time it's done, I'm rearranging the back and stacking things on top of each other and blocking my view in the rear view mirror. And I'm working up a sweat, and I'm thinking, what in the world have I done? Never again will I pack this van that full. But I'm telling you, that's just part of the regular routine. Now, what we bring, not just book, we bring recording equipment in case we find a good interview. And gosh, we also have to have some history displays, and I bring some books on DNA. And gosh, I brought a poster on DNA, Blood of the Irish poster I put up this year, along with a letter from them explaining what that really did, what that movie discovered, or the video discovered. And hey, if you haven't got it yet, Blood of the Irish, that's one show you want to watch. You might have to get it on video or DVD or rent it. And I think somebody told me at the festival that they had it on their list as soon as it came back in. They were getting a copy of it sent to them, so that's the way to do it. And oh yeah, and this year we also had to bring our new Irish songs, singers, and sheet music book. So that was one more new thing we had to bring. Instead of cutting something out, we added something on. Boy, I tell you, just thinking about it makes me think about next year. Well, then, of course, I always bring the Annals of the Four Masters, and that's not too bad in itself, but then I have to bring the gigantic map of the Four Masters, the first big map that showed the ancient locations of Irish families in Ireland, and that's always a big favorite. And then, of course, I bring the Irish Book of Arms because everybody wants to see their coat of arms. And then I have to bring the Irish Book of Arms poster because everybody wants to take a look at that and walk by and say, hey, there we are, folks. And then we bring books on every single county in Ireland. I don't think any other exhibitor has ever done that anywhere in the world. Perhaps. And then, of course, like I said, the DNA poster and flyer. So this year we had to add some extra DNA things there. And I also brought along some DNA swabs. So I showed a few people who had questions about just how simple it was to do that DNA, and we talked about DNA and how we think we might be descended from the same folks as the Basque there in the northwest Spain and down to the bottom of France, adjoining there by the Pyrenees. So I'm thinking a trip to the Pyrenees to explore our Basque heritage, the Irish heritage, the old Irish heritage, might be in order for me. And hey, let me know if you want to go. We might just meet you there at the airport and enjoy some fine Basque country food. But I tell you, that's just an idea of what we put in that van. There's all kinds of books. And then, of course, we have to have a cooler with some snacks, some healthy food on the way down. That is, if we don't forget about it and stop and have some unhealthy food at some of those nice country restaurants, especially breakfast. That's the worst of all. That's my favorite meal, but everything I like is really not as healthy as it's supposed to be. But we got on in, we pulled on into the festival, and this year it was even better because they had some fun buses. And I guess they just packed a couple of hundred people into about 6 or 7 of those fun buses and just shuttled them in and out. So the parking was a breeze compared to previous years. It was nice and easy, and the people just parked their car in a shuttle lot somewhere, and the fun buses drove them on in, and that was just great. It worked well. Hey, and who else did I see at the festival? There was Renata. She's the host of our Hello Fada Curious Notes and News on the Irish Language podcast, and she was there with her jewelry. Several people have written in and asked about her jewelry. Well, you could have seen it there at the Dublin Festival. And that's at least the second year she's been there, so that's nice to know, and it's always good to have a friend just down the hill there in case you need some help. And the temperatures were great. The temperatures were down into the 80s. One year they actually busted 100 there, and people were walking along like, actually they weren't walking along. They were just sitting. They were just sitting or crawling down the runway there. It was very hot that year, but it was still a lot of fun. But this year it was great. And like I said, I saw some great friends. My Cuban friend, Nick, he was there, and he brought some Cuban music, guitar music that I could listen to, and I gave him my Irish songbook. And, of course, Nick even though he's Nicholas Bravo, I think's the name, he's got family in family heritage and history in Cuba, of course, and then he has also traced back some Irish in his line. So he comes to the festival each year and really enjoys it. And you know what? I go to Cuban festivals whenever I can find them, too. Hey, I also saw this year there were some Taiwanese folks that dropped by, and they had some of the most intelligent questions of all. They were asking about Irish history and the difference between the Scots-Irish and the Irish and what the Troubles were about and all kinds of things. That was really fun to talk with them. And then I was sitting there, and a lady stopped dead in her tracks and looked at my Missouri Irish book on display and said, "Why in the world would I be interested in the Missouri Irish? I'm in Ohio." And so I thought, well, gosh, maybe I shouldn't have that book out. But 5 minutes later, somebody walked up and said, "Oh, my gosh, Missouri Irish, I've got an uncle there," and they bought the book. So you never know. There's just one extreme to the other. You just have to be happy with anything you get. And they had some great news there, great music. Natalie McMasters was there, and she puts on one heck of a show. I've seen her. She's been a regular in Kansas City now and then. I can't remember how many years ago it was I first saw her, but she's a great one. If you ever get a chance to see Natalie McMasters, you go take it. It's a real treat, and it's extraordinary. And like I said, the Dublin folks have treated us great for the last 12 years, and we really enjoyed it. And I hope we get to go back for number 13. I don't know how many more we've got in us, but I know we can make that. Oh, I guess I better include the Magnificent Seven. We can't forget those folks who help us out and get our books and join up as members, because that's the only thing that keeps us going. Number one, here are today's Magnificent Seven as we raise our eyes skyward, give thanks, and ask for help. Number one, new member Amy Molina of Elk Grove, Illinois. looking for Thomas Phelan and Ann Murphy from Queens County, whose children were William, Teresa, Maggie, Annie, and Joseph. And they came to Chicago in the 1880s. Number 2, new member Catherine Swepson of Meldale, Australia, looking there for Fitzpatrick and of Derryvoney, Belturbet County, Cavan, and Clones, and some more. I've got all this on the blog with more details if you want to take a look. And number 3, welcome new member Mary Erdman of Orfield, Pennsylvania, and welcome new member Amanda McGow of Birmingham, Alabama, looking for Matthew McGow, and Mary Erdman was looking for McDonough and Laverty, who came to Philadelphia in the late 1890s. Number 5, Philip Tanner of Sylvania, Ohio, your families of Cork has shipped. Number 6, Carolyn Miller of Bustleton, Australia, your Tyrone and Donegal genealogy books have shipped. Number 7, Joseph Burke of Odenton, Maryland, welcome as a new member. He's looking for the Burke family in Ballinasloe, or Ballinasloe, depending on who wrote it, in County Galway, Ireland. I think I had some folks on a trip I took over there and brought a tour group over, and they were looking around Ballinasloe in County Galway. So there's lots of folks from every county I stop in, and they just keep getting more and more common with a lot of intersections, you know? Well, let me see. We're sort of breaking with our standard format here again today. We're going to have, I guess there's been several. Oh, there is one important thing coming up. This marks the beginning of the recording sessions. If you're a singer and want to start recording for our Irish Song and Recitation Festival, that we will broadcast one or two singers at a time on the Irish Song and Recitation show on the web. And this is our season number 3. So if you're a singer or you think you might be able to do an imitation of the same, whether you're a beginner or you're an experienced one, we want you to help us promote some of the old ways of Irish song, and we need your help. Otherwise, you're just going to be listening to me and maybe 2 or 3 others. So we need your help, and we want you to join in, and it's going to be, our theme this year is going to be the old-style Shan Nos song. Now, it looks like Sean Nos maybe, but no, it's Shan Nos. And you know, I've been mispronouncing it for a year, and I still can't get it right all the time. My mind just clicks onto Sean, but it's Shan Nos song. And like I said, we want you to help us promote that early Irish form of song, either by listening to our podcast once we get started, or phoning in your recitation or your song in the old style, or at least a cappella style. Do a little solo singing, because originally Shan Nos actually was solo singing by the Irish themselves, usually without any accompaniment at all, and it was in the Irish language. Now we know there's just a few of us can still sing in the Irish language, or much less sing in the English language, but there's just a few folks that still know the words, I think, when you start looking at it, when you look at the diaspora here in America and Canada and Australia, Ireland, England. So, you know, we think that we'll let you, no matter what language you're singing in. If it's Shan Nos style, we'll let you in. And I hope the folks I've talked to from County Clare will come in and help, because, you know, that's the old OLaughlin homeland. That's where my family's come from. So we're looking for some help from that area. It would be real nice if you let us in a few tunes, so to speak. Now, the term Shan Nos really is a 20th century term, and it was used just to describe the way the old folks sung, the Irish folks sung. That would be in opposition to the way maybe the English ballads sound, and of course it would not be the Tin Pan Alley songs either. These are the old style songs, and the first time I heard it described, they said, well, no verse is the same, and they never sing it the same twice, and you just about have to hear it to know it. And there can be a note or two that's off each time. That's okay, too. And boy, the more I heard about that, the more I thought, that's the kind of singing for me. I could be off a note or two now and then. It never has to be sung the same way twice. My gosh, that sounds like my natural style. Maybe it's the R1B DNA. So here's the deal. I've got some information on the web page. I'll have a link in the blog. We want you to go ahead and we'll either record you here at the cafe if you can sing, or we'll take it over the phone. We can record it on Skype or over a phone call, or you could send us an MP3 file. We could do it that way. We've already got one person who wants to try Shan Nos with an instrument instead of the human voice. Now, wouldn't that be an interesting thing? I think they call that Shan Nos Nua, which would be the new old style, as opposed to the old style. And boy, I tell you, when you talk about Shan Nos Nua, it's they're doing everything with it. You're just taking those old words and they're putting orchestras and choruses and and all kinds of things in there. It's sort of a tribute to the old ways, put in a new way, so to speak. So we're open to everything. We just want to keep that theme of the old style, you know what I mean? So feel free to do it. You can call it in, mail it in, phone it in. Just get a hold of me and we can work that out. And we've actually started, it's going to be the next few weeks I'm going to be recording and taking recordings and putting the whole show together. So get a hold of me today. And if not today, tomorrow, send me an email or contact me on Facebook or on my webpage. Oh, I guess I should mention a little bit. I had several people say, hey, what in the world could you talk about for 5 hours? I think I put a little bit on a blog. That might have been on my blog on Irish Central. I've got a blog on there that they kindly let me put out now and then. And several people have wanted to know what in the world how could you put on a 5-hour class all by yourself on Irish genealogy and Irish family history? Well, it's quite a story. I think you'd enjoy it if you were there. I'll just give you an idea now. I'll give you some of the highlights at what you might want to know if you want to become a graduate of the Irish Head School of Irish Family History and Genealogy, and how it might go if I was there. Well, I tell you, first of all, before the actual 5 hour starts, I think we might as well loosen things up, and people might be a little stiff and thinking they got 5 hours of hard studying and drilling to go. So I usually open it up with a song. I might start off with The Juice of the Barley, and it goes something like, when I was a gossoon of 8 years or so, with me turf and me primer to school I did go. To a dirty old schoolhouse without any door, where lay the schoolmaster blind, asleep on the floor, singing Banyana Moest Naganya, and the juice of the barley for me. So once I've got things started off and we've broken the ice and we're going to see it's not going to be just all facts and figures, then we get down to business and we find out why I even took that song and why we used the head school as a theme and how that can help us understand our Irish family history, our genealogy, and our heritage altogether. Well, to boil it down in a nutshell, what you have to know other than just the names and addresses, which really you can find on the web pretty easy, and it's getting easier all the time. Places like Cindy's List, my gosh, you can find any subject, any place, anywhere. And you go to FamilySearch.org. That's another great one just to get a start. If you just don't know where to go and you want to kick off, you're going to find more information there than you know what to do with. But some other things you want to know about are the 17th century, and that was the most tumultuous time for the Irish, and that's when the Irish lost their lands. That's when the Scots-Irish and the English started coming over in so many numbers and they actually took over the entire country, and the whole thing changed. The whole island changed. 90% of the land changed hands into the people who had came over and invaded Ireland, so to speak, or settled Ireland is another way to put it if you read the history books. But you really need to know that century because that's when you had the flight of the Earls out of Ulster, O'Neill and O'Donnell, our last true big leaders that they just had to take off and head to the continent. So we lost our last of our big-time leadership, I think you might say. And then, of course, you had the Civil War in the middle of the century, and that was a terrible thing. People fighting just outrageous. And then at the end of that century, you had 30 to 40,000 Irishmen exiled to the continent. Thousands upon thousands of them entered into the armies of France and Spain and likewise countries. So you got some interesting genealogical mixes there, and that's when you find a lot of strange spellings of Irish names on the European continent, and that's something people don't think about. But just imagine 30 to 40,000 fighting men exiled to the continent of Europe and where they settled, and their families and their children's and their new wives, and gosh, what does that mean for genealogy? I know I've done a little bit of looking in Spain, and there is plenty there. And I'm sure that it spread pretty well throughout, and you might be able to find more about it today with the web. But that's a genealogical key, just like the 19th century is with the Great Famine of Ireland that sent the Irish to all four corners of the globe. That's for sure. You got to know, when did the famine start? Is that what sent your people over? Where might have they been in the scheme of things? Who were the Scots-Irish, if you're Scots-Irish? Or if you're not Scotch-Irish, it would behoove you to find out just where your culture come from, and that might help you understand which records to check, and might make some sense of things as you're reading along, finding your genealogy. You also want to find your family history, because genealogy might be said to be the bare bones, the names, the dates, the places. Family history tells you what it was really all about. And if you want to have some meaning to things, you got to have that family history right along with the genealogy. So that takes up a little bit of the 5-hour genealogy course, and I hope that gives you an idea of what it might cover. That's all for today, folks. Joseph, warm up those pipes. Remember, we have a broadcast series on Irish song and recitation, on local history of the Irish in America, and on 2,000 years of Irish history, as well as on the counties, and something special coming up on Irish language, I hope. We've got all that and more at our head school at irishroots.com. And we've been known to appear, exhibit, teach, and even sing for your special events. Be sure to book in advance if it's important, and write me at my American address at Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri, 64116. Leave a message by phone at 816-256-3360. Reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com. Skype me at the Irish Roots Cafe. Get me on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, and Irish Central. Members foot the bill, so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.